Fiscally went from 3 founders in Vienna to 90 plus employees, 1 million POS integration in just 5 years. What are the key inflection points along that journey?
Welcome to Startuprad.io, your podcast and YouTube blog covering the German startup scene with news, interviews, and live events.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Joe from Startuprad.io, your startup podcast and YouTube blog from Germany. Today on Startup Radio, we're diving deep into the world of cloud-based fiscal compliance, API-driven POS innovation, and regulatory tech with a very special guest, Oliver Abel, country manager at Fiscally, Europe's leading pioneer in digital fiscalization solutions. Welcome, Oliver.
Hello, happy to be here.
You bring a unique mix of financial expertise, consulting background, and deep regulatory knowledge, having joined Fiscally back in 2020 and now leading the expansion and market positioning in Germany. By the way, that's why we are talking here today. Since stepping into the role as a country manager in 2023, you've been instrumental in shaping strategic communication, stakeholder engagement, and expansion roadmap in one of the world's most regulated markets. Under your leadership, Fiscally has achieved key milestones, including the acquisition of DF, Deutsche Fiscal GmbH, a multi-million euro investment from growth equity firm Verdane, and strategic expansion into Spain and Italy. The innovative approach offers software-only TSE compliance, cloud-native digital receipts, and unified API integration. You have now reached more than 600,000 points of sale as Fiscally together and serve more than 1,000 B2B clients, including top-tier partners like Orderbird, SumUp, and Ready to Order, right?
That's absolutely true. I have to correct it at some point because we as Fiscally, we have we hit the 600k POS recently, but with the acquisition of Deutsche Fiscal, we are close to 1 million now. So the Fiscally group itself has hit the magic 1 million barrier. So very proud of that. Yes.
In this episode, we'll unpack how Fiscally is transforming fiscal compliance from a bureaucratic burden into a growth enabler for POS providers and retailers alike. Your perspective on digitizing tax systems, shaping public-private tech regulation, and why cloud-first fiscalization is no longer just in the future, it's in the present. Welcome. That was quite a long introduction. Sorry, but you gotta set the stage. In your own words, what is Fiscally and what urgent pain points did you originally aim to solve?
Well, again, thanks for having me. I think the introduction set the bridge or set the tone quite well for what we are doing and what is so like what the vibe behind it is. It's very hard to explain sometimes what we do, and I want to make it quite brief and for everyone to grasp because we are basically a B2B SaaS company building cloud-based solutions for fiscal compliance or for compliance across Europe. So we do this with a single API approach, and I always say or I tend to say our customers, like the POS providers, retailers, they build great products, great experiences. But what stands often in their way of growth, of growing across borders or entering new markets is regulation, fiscal regulation, compliance. So it's often complex, it's fragmented, it's a blocker for innovation. And that's actually where we come in. I like to say we reduce pain as a service. That's what we do. We make compliance seamless. Yes, that's basically what Fiscally is, what Fiscally stands for.
Pain reduction as a service. I like that one. Fiscally went from 3 founders in Vienna to 90 plus employees, 1 million POS integration in just 5 years. What are the key inflection points along that journey?
Well, the most important milestone since we've been founded in 2019 was the certification in Germany, because to have a product in Germany, you have to be certified by one of the most I would always call them the end boss of regulation. It's the BSI in Germany, and they do this quite detailed. So basically, by getting the certification in Germany, we were able to have a product in Germany. And because we were the only ones doing this, like we were very disruptive. It is a hardware-based industry. We set the tone doing cloud-based fiscalization as the first ones in Germany. So that was the most important milestone. The next ones are obviously entering new markets like Spain, Italy, with the same mindset, being software-based, software first, and being as disruptive as possible to make it as easy and seamless as possible for the customers.
Who was the entity that certified you?
In Germany?
Yep.
It's the BSI, Bundesamt für Sicherheit in der Informationstechnik. They were in Germany, the regulation for fiscal providers are the Ministry of Finance, BMF, and the BSI. The Ministry of Finance sets the regulatory standards when it comes to the law itself, like which is stated in the Abgabenordnung in Germany. And the BSI is responsible for the technical guidelines, so the technical solution itself.
Would you say fiscal compliance is tax compliance or more?
It is fiscal compliance I would say it's a combination of technical complexity, like you have a product which is in Germany, which is highly a technical product, right? But there is always, with fiscal regulation, obviously there's always tax compliance. And I think this is basically like the sweet spot where regulation hits, because the regulator, the governments have an incentive of transactions being recorded, to prevent tax fraud and to prevent money laundering and all which could happen at the point of sale. So therefore, they want to regulate this business. But you know what? Even though the state or the governments have a very good incentive, or I would say even an understandable incentive in doing that, the implementation of it's sometimes really, really complex. And therefore, I would say in Germany basically hit the jackpot on that. It's so complex. So there was actually no one able to doing it 100% software based. And we were the first ones trying it and succeeding. And that was not only the first milestone, that was basically what kept us going and our success story.
So what you're doing is you offer the digital recording of transactions in order for your clients to provide them to the tax authorities.
Yes. So basically, if you're SumUp, Orderbird, Settle, one of our biggest customers, in order to provide a product in, for example, Germany, you have to be compliant with fiscal regulations. And that's it. We call it CTC, Continuous Transaction Control, which is basically the mandatory set of fiscal regulations. And we are the only ones who do this 100% software and API based. So therefore, one-time integration with us, and you can basically scale. That's our promise, and that's why we're so popular, especially with those or in this kind of industry.
Talking a little bit about the go-to-market strategy and innovation strategy, where was going cloud first and API first in fiscal compliance such a game changer, especially in hardware-dominated environments like fiscal tech?
Yeah, I mean, there are two aspects of growth for us. One is timing. Timing is very, very crucial, because when we were founded 2019 in Germany, the custom sets was just implemented. So if we would come across right now, we would have been too late, because, the go-to-market or the timing is really, really crucial here. Because since 2020, everyone has to be compliant in Germany, right? And if you are compliant with a fiscal regulation, your need or your pain to switch is not that big. So therefore, you have to be there when the law is basically implemented, and you have to have a seamless solution. The timing was perfect for Germany, and therefore we did the same, or we're trying to do the same for Spain and for Italy. In Spain, it's actually right now where this law is being implemented. So in the next couple of months, we're going live here as well, or the law is being enforced. Same for Italy. Italy was actually one of the first countries in Europe to introduce a fiscal regulation. But as in many other countries, it was basically thought very hardware-based. So it is a hardware-based business. And in Italy, they basically they are switching now. They doing it basically like technology neutral, like in Germany, to also allow software-based solutions. And therefore, we are also trying to get a 100% seamless and software-based solution in Italy as well.
I see. How do you sign and receive work under the hood? How did you gain trust in markets like Germany, where regulatory compliance is complex and strict?
That's actually a very good question, because trust is, I would say, it's one of the most important aspects to our business, that we gain trust. And you know what? We're a startup, now a scale up, you could say, obviously, because of the size we have and the growth and the sheer numbers. And being able to do that, to gain that trust in that industry was, I would say, one of the biggest challenges. But the promise was so, like, what we promised was so good, right? Because it is such a pain. Fiscalization is such a pain to do it like hardware based and stuff like that. So we said, you know what? We take this complex regulation and we will transform it into a seamless cloud-based solution. Trust us, right? So that was basically the promise. And you know what? Until the certification 2021, it was like sometimes, you know, you tell yourself things like that often enough that you will make it, that you start believing it, right? And it was like a really big gamble. But we always lived up to our expectations, and we always lived up to what we promised our customers. So it's basically not something we always say or we write somewhere. It's what customers or what partners experienced since the first hour. We are always transparent. We are always very direct, and we always try to make one thing, like we try to make the life of our customers very easy. And that's, you know, by tackling this very, very tough regulations.
Expansion and ecosystem growth. You not only did expand to Germany, you already talked about Spain and Italy, your top expansion targets. How does your unified API strategy reduce localization pain for POS partners?
So regulation is most of the time very complex and domestic. So every country, so regulations are not similar across Europe. So in Spain, we are facing a different regulation, obviously, than in Germany or Italy, but they do have things in common. You can say there are some patterns which they have in common. So this is, I would say, the next big thing for Fiscally and for Fiscally customers, to have a unified approach. What does it mean? We are not only solving Germany or Spain or Italy or Austria or whatever country comes next. We are basically building a solution which covers all of the countries, right? So we call it Unified API, and this is basically like the next big thing for us, because we are basically simplifying this complex and fragmented regulation for the customers. So whoever is integrated in Spain with us, whoever will integrate Italy with us, whoever is our partner in Germany, whenever they feel to, they can basically implement our unified approach, and they're basically compliant in all the countries we offer at the moment.
That was something I would have asked you anyway, because that obviously makes sense. So let's talk partnerships. How did you land clients like Orderbird, SumUp, and Ready to Order? Any tactics other startups can learn from you?
I mean, Orderbird was basically one of the game changers, to be quite honest and quite frank about it. Orderbird was one of the first customers, and it's since then one of the most important ones. How do you land them? We always focused on what makes them great is nothing we can, like what I said in the beginning, reducing pain as a service is not only a slogan, it's really a mindset, because what they do is so far away from regulation. They don't want to put much effort into that. So from the start, we basically said, you know what, we can take away everything which is complex for you here. And this is our business. This is what we do. No one likes to do it, but we are the best ones doing it. And I don't know, maybe it's sometimes just, it's like every business, it's a people's business, right? And we have a very good, very strong founder team, which they built a very good relationship with the Orderbirds, the SumUps, the Settles. And maybe it helped also that they also had a startup background. They also have a growth background. So they knew exactly where we're coming from and where we're heading to. Yeah. So that was it, maybe.
So I just had to smile when you talked about nobody wants to do it, but we do it. Is that the kind of toast you do at the Christmas parties at Fiscally?
No. It's sometimes you have to be honest to yourself, right? And sometimes you don't have the product, or you don't have the thing which is considered, sexy. It's not the thing you can brag about talking to your friends, because nobody understands it, quite frankly. Yeah. But that's the good thing. That's the good thing about it, because that's niche, and niche is always good. Niche is lucrative. Niche is nice, if you want to frame it like that. And what stands behind it is so much more important.
Being the only English-speaking podcast of some meaning for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, I can totally agree. Niche is nice. Yes.
Yes, 100%. And to add something to that, you know what? Solely in Germany, the government says there is around 70 billion euros per year, which are lost on the point of sale or money laundering, whatever, right? So they have a clear incentive in regulating these things. And I always say, nobody likes to talk about taxes or increasing taxes and stuff like that. This is something you can have a whole discussion about, but the regulation exists, and we are just trying to make it seamless and easy to enforce. And our customers we lower the burden so much to actually comply with these kind of things. It makes everyone's lives easier, right? For the government, for the businesses, and in the end, also for the taxpayer and for the whole society, really.
Interesting way to think about it. We'll be back, guys, after a short ad break. Hey guys, welcome back to Oliver from Fiscally, country manager for Germany. We are talking now funding and growth strategy. You've just secured growth capital from Verdun. Why now, after bootstrapping so far, and how will that money fuel your next phase?
Yeah, first of all, kudos to our founder team that they have been able to bootstrap this whole thing for such a long time, To make one thing clear, the founders still have a majority of Fiscally, so it was a minority investment. One thing which is really important, we did not need the money. It was not about the money itself. It was about the strategic partner with Verdun. Verdun is one of the most prestigious growth investors in Europe from the Nordics. And what they offer is a very, very good expertise, with their portfolio customers and other portfolio companies like us and some of companies in similar situations, it makes just so much more sense to do networking, to say like, hey, we are where you have been, I don't know, 3 years ago. How did you manage to tackle that topic? How did you manage to restructure things, And this is something where we are actually looking for answers. This is a really challenging thing, growing a business, leading a scale up into these new dimensions, having growth across countries. This is very, very challenging. And therefore it is really such a great thing to have Verdane on board, because they offer expertise, they offer the network, they offer other companies. And that's basically what makes this partnership so valuable for us.
Mm-hmm. You just talked about having a partner, having funding here. What role will M&A play, having just acquired a company here in Germany, going forward, especially acquiring DF, Deutsche Fiscal? Are there more acquisitions part of your European roadmap?
Yes. To make it short, yes. We have a target list which is updated on a regular basis. We managed to actually do the acquisition of Deutsche Fiscal to, I can't go into details obviously, but to very good conditions. It was a deal which makes it possible to have some other acquisitions in the near future as well. This is something we take a look into, but we have to be very careful. It has to make sense on all ends, right? And yes, and we don't want to put too much effort in growing anorganically, but also organically. This is really, really important for us. And yeah, so having both growth sides is basically key here. But yes, we have a target list, and this is planned, I would say.
I'm interested because in Germany, I'm now talking to a lot of different entrepreneurs, and more of them seem to go the way to team up with a larger investor, something like growth investor, private equity investment, and then start consolidating across Europe. That's a very interesting thought. Popped up a few years ago, but I hear it more and more often. Interestingly, that's how they build a European champion, they usually call it. But let's move on a little bit to leadership and vision. What's your boldest product bet for the next 12 to 18 months? Will Fiscally evolve beyond fiscal compliance?
Yeah, we talked about it before. Evolving beyond fiscal compliance is actually not something we are looking for or we are aiming for. Fiscal compliance is our core business. There is an expansion, or there is I would say the total addressable market grows because our product or our technical solution can be used for different kind of aspects of regulation. So we're not only talking about point of sale regulation, we're also talking about, if I can give you examples, EV charging, stuff like that. It's also regulated, and therefore you can also think about having our product in mind for these kind of businesses as well, without going in too much detail. But that's, everywhere where transactions or have to be recorded or signed, this is something where maybe we could come into play. And for Europe, or for our existing fiscal compliance solution and product, I also talked about it before, the unified approach. It's basically, having a country which is hard to fiscalize is maybe something really, really interesting for us. But another topic which is interesting is having this unified fiscalization across countries and across Europe.
Mm-hmm. And now we're going to introduce our audience. I know they usually speak in 4 to 5 languages, and most of them will likely also be able to speak at least some German, to some interesting German words. Registrierkassenpflicht and Bonpflicht. Could you just plainly explain a little bit what those terms mean before we get a little bit into a question about that?
Sure. So Registrierkassenpflicht is basically a mandatory cash register. So you have to have, it basically says every business which uses a point of sale or which has B2C transactions needs to have an electronic record keeping system, basically like an electronic POS, right? This is part of fiscalization sometimes, for example, in Austria. Sometimes it's not, like in Germany. So in Germany, you have also another beautiful German word, which is called offene Ladenkasse. And it's just, it's pen and paper. And it basically, right now, some businesses are excluded from the regulation because they actually are allowed to use pen and paper. This makes it so funny because, Germany is really regulates a lot of things, but they also make exceptions. So basically, I don't know if you are in Berlin on a regular basis, but when you're in Berlin, for example, and you see those Spätis, for our non-German audience, this is basically just little stores you'll find everywhere where you can get some beer or some snacks or whatever.
They're open late, spät, right?
Exactly. That's where it derives from. And what most, and I would say 100% almost have in common, you don't get a receipt there, and you don't see any regulation happening there, right? Because they are still allowed to use pen and paper, and there comes this solves basically the mandatory cash register. This should address it, and also the mandatory issuing of receipts, because this all plays into this fiscalization regulations, which we address and the government addresses.
Mm-hmm. Those, by the way, I was laughing so hard because we do have an AI that is doing the transcripts, and somebody then looks over it, but I already can hear her saying, "Oh, Joe, what does register mean?"
Yeah, 100%. I can totally understand.
Yeah, with this Registrierkassenpflicht, Bonpflicht, and so on and so forth, what role do you see Fiscally playing in shaping fair and modern tax systems across Europe?
Yeah, it's for us, it is sometimes the regulator is really afraid of implementing some sort of mandatory thing. I can only speak for the German side. Sometimes they were like, if we implement a Registrierkassenpflicht, like this mandatory cash register, this would mean all the small stores would have to have a big investment for this point of sale. What they don't understand, that this is not the reality anymore. This is not the reality of business anymore. You have the sum ups, you have the settles, you have the order birds, you have, ready to order. And they all offer something really, really nice, a very small device which complies with the regulations. It's software as a service also, it's also you don't have these high investments anymore. So basically, when some regulators think of point of sales, they're still thinking of this really hardware, these big hardware boxes, but that's not the case anymore, right? So demystifying what this means and what the upside for the regulators is something we do on a regular basis to actually keep it fair across businesses, which is really, really important to not only keep the goals the government sets, but also to have a level playing field across businesses. That's
talking a little bit here towards the end of our interview about something that may have an impact for our audience. What's one thing you wish more early stage SaaS founders knew about selling into regulated industry like yours?
It sounds a little weird when I say that, but or it may sound weird, but just be more ballsy, be more proud of what you did and what you achieved. Because sometimes, especially when you are dealing in highly regulated areas and industries, sometimes you feel like this small step, like this small little piece in it, but you are actually, you can shape the industry. This is what we did. We were faced, or we We were in between of all these big players, established players, within the ones who said like, no, this is not possible, how you do it or how you envision it. And we did it anyways, right? And we shaped an industry, because right now nobody's talking about hardware fiscalization in Germany anymore. Everyone is looking towards cloud-based fiscalization. The same ones who said like 3-4 years ago, this is not possible, this is not something you should actually follow, are the ones copying us right now. This is the biggest compliment, being copied by those companies, right? So be proud of what you achieved, be proud of your idea even, and be proud of that you even tried it, and follow through. That's basically it.
As last question, if you could go back something like 5 years to 2020 and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Hang in there. It will get better. No, I would say actually that was basically the thing I said before would have been the pep talk I needed back then, maybe, because we were actually not so confident, we had to fake our confidence, we had to basically, we were the small startup from Austria dealing in this highly regulated industry and trying to find a disruptive way of doing it seamlessly. So I would actually say, you know what, you're on the right path, follow through, be confident, and you're shaping an industry right now.
Because it's the last question, out of curiosity, I was wondering, how often did it help you to close a deal when you said, I'll be back?
I would love to say once, but actually never. To be quite honest, being Austrian and having this Austrian background not always helped us having or growing a business in Germany. Sometimes it did, but most of the time, let's say we did have to show other qualities than being Austrian.
I see. Oliver, thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you as guest.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
That's all, folks. Find more news, streams, events, and interviews at www.startuprad.io. Remember, sharing is caring.